Well, we are back on the Camaro, and this body is coming off this video. Right, Eddie?
That's right.
I know we said that last video at the start of it, but this time it's gonna happen. Now, it's a pretty short week for Eddie and I this week because Friday we gotta drive that big RV all the way to Wampum.
Easy.
Wampum.
Wampum?
I just like saying.
Oh, I'm definitely gonna be wamping it.
I just like saying wampum. I don't know why. It's a fun word. So if you live up there in Wampum, Pennsylvania, we're gonna be right in your backyard next let's call it Saturday and Sunday, because Friday we won't be getting there till late because we have to drive non-stop all the way through, all the way from here to Pitt International Raceway on our pit race. I don't know what the official name of the racetrack is, but that's where we're headed this Friday. But between now and then, which is funny because this video is probably going to come out on Thursday or Friday, probably Friday, which while you're watching this video on Friday, we'll probably be driving. So anyways, we have worked out how we're doing the last bit of the bumper stuff. Actually, I need to get through the intro. Intro, now. So we figured out what we're gonna do for the last bit of the bumper closeout stuff, and that has to do with this Zeus fastener strip. That's gonna get bolted. It's gonna get modified first, of course. I didn't touch your pedal. You accused me of touching your pedal?
I was gonna say, if you turned my welder off, I was about to be very upset. Pedal wasn't pedaling. Ah! You helped me, actually, so thanks.
See? I knew what he needed. Huh? I knew what you needed.
I needed to whomp him.
All right, anyways. So that strip I just showed you a second ago is gonna get modified. And we're gonna put more of those threaded inserts in right there, which technically it's not a threaded insert. A couple of you in the comments, dang it, they're on that side of the car. You were asking about what they were exactly, and I'll see if I can get it where it's zoomed in. We've got a good, maybe the black background. So it's really just a really tiny locking quarter 28 bolt. And a few more of you commented and said the battery's gonna be in the way of whoever's sitting in here. They're gonna get shocked. No, they're not. So the seats, as you can see, are very moved back in the car. And I mean, and if you can't fit your feet from here to there, that's like, holy moly, that's a huge area for the passenger to put their feet in. But obviously the seats are gonna be very far back in this thing, and the passenger seat will line up generally in the same location as the driver's side seat there. So no, the battery's not going to be in the way of things. And by having the battery here, it actually saves us weight, because for all the amperage, if we were to put the battery where everybody was saying we should put it back in the back of the car, well, we have to account for all of the battery cable running the full length of the car, and there's an amp loss for every foot, well, every inch of battery cable. So with the battery being right here by the electronics, the starter is right through there. So that works out really well to actually have the battery up towards the front of the car, and it's actually lighter than if we were to put it at the back of the car. So that's going to be that. I actually have to start, well, installing a few more of these, because there's going to be some up under here where there's going to be I called it a tree, like a lower dash mounting tree, and that's also going to have probably the mount on it for the Holly dash. So the fiberglass dash will be able to be removed, and then the Holly dash will stay mounted to our little tree thing here. Or I may do it completely separate. Maybe I do the Holly screen mount completely separate, because then the dash could just be left out of the car. And that's totally fine too. I'll think about that while I'm doing this threaded insert for the lower tree, because there is going to be, so I call it a tree, but it's going to basically have a bar that, you know, runs from here over across. It'll have a Zeus fastener somewhere in here to keep the bottom of the dash from flapping around. And I'll probably even, oh, I just caught my elbow.
Oh, is it raining?
It does sound like it's raining.
Weird.
Huh, wasn't expecting that today. But yeah, my elbow had a really bad time last week. I burned it there, and it's still healing there, and I just caught it again on that right there. So anyway, there's going to be a small bar that runs across, and it'll have a plate on it for a Zeus fastener, and I will also tie from that little bar back somewhere up there in the middle, just to give it some triangulation, keep the dash nice and sturdy. But I got to get to work if we're going to get this done, so here we go. So I figured I'd start out this time-lapse with our normal time-lapse music and then go into some of the voiceover stuff. And during that little music montage, we actually got a pretty good bit of stuff done. You saw me drill and tap the upper X door bars in the front to put the quarter 28 threaded jet nuts in there, or we're kind of using them like a threaded insert. So I guess you could call them that, even though I called it a bolt earlier in the video. But after I got those welded in, and while Eddie is making the bars that support the center piece of carbon fiber in the trunk, I welded in the tabs that will support the front of the fuel cell. That's what that piece of rod is attaching. And basically what I used there was a long piece of all thread to kind of bolt the tabs to, and that keeps them straight with each other. And then I centered them on the frame rails back there so that they are in the best location for me to weld them. And I've already kind of mocked up where the fuel cell is going to go once we fabricate it, and had an idea of where it was going to mount. So then after that, and actually while Eddie is still working on welding in the tubes at the back of the car, I move back to the interior of the car, and I am working on making the mounts for both of the pull handles for the fire systems. Yes, there will be two. One that is for the driver's compartment, and then another that will be for the engine compartment. The one in the engine compartment is going to be much bigger, since this is a methanol car, or a methanol fueled car. It will have, a great big system out under the hood. Well, the bottle itself will actually be mounted interior in the car somewhere, but then the all the nozzles will deploy out under the hood. These systems are also both equipped with automatic deploy nozzles on them, that if either of the bottles gets hot, well, whichever bottle gets hot, that system will deploy. So the driver's bottle will be mounted actually right ahead of where Eddie's working right now. And we're going to tell you about what he's working on right there, but you can see a hole in that frame rail tube. But on the fire systems, the driver compartment one will be mounted on the dash bar on the driver's side, right up by the firewall. If that gets over 175 degrees, it will automatically deploy the interior fire system to protect the driver. The other fire system, the plan is to mount the bottle behind the passenger seat, and then it will have another pull handle that will be, operated by the driver to deploy that system. Or if it gets really hot all the way in the interior of the car, it will go ahead and deploy that system as well. And I'm making the mounts for the handles really sturdy because I never want that to fail if those systems are needed. Not a lot left on the list. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on in the background. Eddie came over and checked off a couple of things off the list, which I'm going to show you one that's kind of exciting. At least I think it's kind of cool. And there's the first hint of it, which this is just a mock-up, but follow it down and around, and ooh, look at that. Goes through a sleeve that we welded into the frame, and then it comes out right there. And the master cylinders mount here. So what we are doing, and Eddie's working on right now. Yeah, I know Eddie. Eddie actually working. Prove to the people you're working.
Oh, they already know. Look, this guy goes right there. Oh, ooh, doesn't get better than that.
That's nice.
That's real nice right there.
And then we'll have a flex line from where it comes out there back to here that will allow that pedal. Oh, grab the pedal. Let's grab the pedal.
I don't even know where that is.
It's right there. It's right there.
I found it.
So the idea is that the pedal will be movable and not have to re-bleed the brake lines. That's nice.
So we're gonna put just like a line that kind of like loops around.
Yep. Yeah, it'll have
and it's long enough.
Well, it'll be pretty
or
tight,
2 lines,
I think, right there. And I think if we did like an 1/8 inch to 45 on the master cylinder, so it kind of kicks a curve into it.
Yeah.
And then that way, if we'll make it fit snug all the way back here at the last hole, and then it'll allow that it'll allow it to just kind of bunch out more as it moves back. And the line lock is going to be mounted to this. So once we get the body off, I'll probably go ahead and mount the line lock solenoid, or I'll probably just do some threaded inserts, because that seems to be what we're doing a lot of on this build. But up here, we got a little bit more action up here that you saw in the time lapse. So this is going to be the pull handle mount for the engine fire system. So it'll be a 10-pounder on the engine, and then this pull handle is for the driver fire system. And the driver fire system will be mounted right here on this bar, tucks right in there really nice. And then the Pro 600 mounts down here, kind of like in this space. And if we have to, we'll rotate it around a little bit so that it clears the fire bottle. And the fire system we went with, which is somewhere over here in a box, has, well, it's up top there, but it has an automatic deploy. So if it's got like a little glass bulb, I guess, that breaks over 170 degrees. So something bad happens, driver gets knocked out, something crazy, and it's getting hot inside the car, it will automatically deploy there. And the big fire system, the 10-pounder, we're gonna probably mount the bottle behind the passenger seat. I kind of mocked it up, it's ordered, but it's not here yet. So we'll get it mounted and installed even after we get the body off, because there's probably a day or so in going around and welding all of the little spots that aren't welded yet. So hopefully before this video ends, we are going to show you what that looks like with the body off. Yeah, pretty exciting stuff. So we'll get back to work. We'll see if we can get the steering column mocked up, and then after the steering column is mocked up, it's ready to come out. It's ready, or the body's ready to take off, which we've got to go through and take all the bolts out. You see, we got to take all these bolts out, take the engine back out, take the K-member back off, because this part right here, this tube, is a part of the main chassis. So it'll be a little bit of an adventure to get the body off, but I think we can do it. So anyways, I better stop talking so we can get back to work.
So I didn't document what we're doing very well right here, but Will was down at the shop doing some other work for us, and we got him on making some of the carbon fiber interior panels for the back of the car, and I needed to climb up into the back window to hold the carbon down with a piece of wood while he drilled through from the bottom to start putting some of the mounting holes in the carbon fiber. And I thought it was a pretty funny clip, even though I didn't really get much of the other footage of what we were doing there, or show the carbon installed in the car. And a little bit of a spoiler alert, it looks amazing. But that was a part of something that needed to be done, and we had some time to work on that while I was working on some of the things at the front of the car, and Eddie's working on another part of the car. Will wanted to help out, so we put him to work on making some carbon fiber pieces. And now we're actually into the next day of filming onto the car, where Eddie and I took the back bumper off, and there was quite a bit of little welding that needed to be done with the wing strut mounts, like the lower wing strut mounts, as well as the parachute anchor mounts. So he's doing a little bit of welding on all of those, and we're using real low heat, real small filler rod there so that nothing moves, and he's welding just a little bit on each one so that none of it gets super hot. And before we took the bumper off, we had 4 good tack welds on each of those pieces to hold them in their location. Sometimes if you only put like 2 tack welds on a tube, when you weld it with the next weld, it will pull the whatever the tube that you're working with, it'll pull towards the direction of that new really hot weld. So we try and get some good tack welds in multiple planes to hold those tubes straight when we come back and really, put enough heat to them to stick them permanently. And that's just another part of this project, is getting all that little stuff welded at the back of the car. And we do decide to go ahead and make a bar that you can see Eddie holding right now that kind of makes a 90-degree sweep from the, I guess you could almost call it the rear parachute anchor, the horizontal bar there. And that 90-degree sweep that he's welding in, that is going to be a mount for the burn down box on the driver's side of the car, and on the passenger side of the car it's going to mount the air pump and the air tank. It's going to be mounted over there in that corner. And then we're going to have a flange for a leash electronics wiring board that will be back in the trunk with 4 relays on it. That way they'll have some spares. Hopefully they can just move some wires around if they need to, if one ever fails. I haven't ever really had one fail that wasn't the cause of another major problem in the car. So that we're going to make sure that it's real easy to just jump over to another circuit, kind of build in some spares. And kind of one of my theories with spares is that if you bring a spare, you never end up needing it. So that's kind of the method we're working on with this, and definitely chipping away on lots of little bitty projects on this thing. And before the end of this video, the body is coming off.
All right, so lots of different stuff happening. Got all the back bumper off, welded up all the pieces here, which I used some silicon bronze right here, which this isn't the greatest example of it, but the silicon bronze wets in at a really low temperature, which I think I may have said before, and it makes it to where you can weld stuff to sheet metal and it not like warp the sheet metal real bad. I didn't do a very good job of it right here, because you can see a little warp in there, because I actually
Don't know how to weld.
I actually got it kind of hot because that was 1/8" steel that I was welding to the sheet metal there. So Eddie's in here working on the steering column mount, which really is the last thing to do before we pull the body off of this thing. And the reason we have to do the steering column before the body comes off is because the lower part of it that kind of determines everything, the lower part of it is attached to the body that will be unbolted from the chassis. And this looks a little weird maybe, but we have a reason for that. You can actually see we've got the pedals mocked up in it to make sure all of that clears there. Our very highly technical mock-up brackets that we're doing. We actually did have a laser in the car to verify that that was square, but this these are our infinitely adjustable steering column bracket supports. Eddie designed those himself.
I could. Call me an engineer.
You know I'm talking about the wood, right? The wood, you're
engineering is engineering, okay?
So, the last thing before the body comes off. Yeah, and then once the body's off, I will work on mounting the screen. We've got all the different spots to touch up where we can't really weld all that great, like out here isn't finished welded yet. So there's lots of, I mean, there's probably a day worth of welding. And actually, Eddie and I leave tomorrow, headed for Pittsburgh.
Wampum.
No, we're not going to Pittsburgh. We're going to where?
Wampum.
That's the greatest word ever. If you live in Wampum, congratulations, because that's just a cool city. And yeah. Anyways, I'm gonna stop chit-chatting and get back to work so we can make this happen in this video.
So this last time lapse here, you're going to notice kind of some switching around. And the first thing that happened was I bent up a tube because Eddie had a very important phone call to take. something we'll talk about probably in another video, but it's very exciting. And you'll notice that Eddie is working on the steering column mount, and in the middle of him starting to work on that, CJ and I start doing some of the stuff that's going to be required to take the body off. So we start taking the K-member off. There's all of the bolts that run down the side of the car to the pinch weld. We need to take the doors off. So we're kind of moving through and going through all the little pieces and the bolts and stuff that, bolt the firewall to the mid plate tube, and then the outside firewall to the outside frame rail section. And then there's some bolts that are up in the roof of the car that tie the roof to the roll cage. And then there's these these kind of tabs and aluminum filler plates that bridge between the roll cage and where the door closes. So different things like that, just to tie the body to the cage in a lot of places to try and keep it as sturdy as possible, but also keep it sealed up, as nice as we can within reason. Like, you could really get this car sealed up really, really well if you wanted to, like just by taking once we put the body back on the frame, obviously, but just to go around in a couple of small spots, like around where the panels bolt to, like basically the body panels bolt to the chassis. You could put a little bead of silicone in there, and this thing would really be sealed up well, because it's going to still have the factory weather strips and the doors. Power windows are going to work. Like, all that kind of stuff is going to make this car, I think, very enjoyable as a street car. And it's also going to be set up to go super, super fast. So hopefully, with the extra effort that we're putting into the car with making the different driver controls, making all of them adjustable, the throttle pedal can be moved fore and aft, the seat can be moved fore and aft as well as up and down, the brake pedal assembly can be moved fore and aft in the car, and all of that stuff. We're hoping that anybody that decides to get in this car, it can be set up for them, and then it fits them well. It's not just something that you hop in a car and you're really tall or something, or you're really short and it's uncomfortable for either one of those. Now, obviously, there's an end of that spectrum somewhere where it's really hard to fit somebody that's 7 foot tall in a car that will also accept someone that's 5 foot tall. But this car has a pretty broad range of drivers that it can fit and fit well. So this is a pretty unique steering column mount, and we're going to explain more of that later. But we kind of ended up doing something in a new way that we've never done before. But we do make sure that it's going to be plenty sturdy. And where we would normally use like a 7/8 chromoly tube to triangulate the steering column, we used 1 1/8 tubing here. So it's even more overkill. And there's another reason we used that size tube, which I'll show you here in a few minutes. But it has to do with some of the wiring in the car. So that's kind of another unique feature in why the steering column mount ended up the way that it did. But hopefully it all works out. I've got a pretty good idea of what's going to happen by the end of this and how it's going to end up working out. So, we'll see how all that works out once we do finally get to completion. But now that that steering column is mounted, it's time to get this thing rolled over into the lift so that we can first remove the engine and the mid plate and the motor plate. And then once that is out of the way, we're going to go ahead and remove the whole car from our fixture that we had made to kind of build the car off of. So just 4 bolts holding that together. Knock the bolts out, take the spacers out, and then this is the first time this car will have been off of this fixture in over a year. So, the project kind of got put on hold, and then Steve and Val ended up buying the car, and now we're trying to get this thing wrapped up for them for Sick Week 2025. And right now we're trying to get the body off, but we're realizing that we've got a problem that's not letting it budge. And I kind of get it figured out, and I made one mistake on how things were going to come apart. And notice we're kind of all focusing on this front section of the car. So, a little chop and a grind to take one piece, well, two little pieces out of the way, and then this is what happens next.
All right, we ready to do this?
Yeah.
We gonna work?
It's gonna work.
We gonna find out.
We're gonna find out right now.
Oh yeah.
Oh, there goes
That's
some
my
wood.
piece of wood. Can we go forward yet? What's
Yeah.
prevent?
It's just tight.
There it is.
Just keep going. Oh, it's moving the whole
It's
chassis
close.
forward. Here, can someone? It's moving the whole chassis forward.
I know, but it's almost clear this one. If we
We
can,
can pull back on the chassis.
maybe, yeah.
Okay.
There it is. That is so cool.
Good, DJ?
Need help?
I don't gotta go up anymore.
Yeah, go ahead.
We gotta go up. Yeah. Here, you wanna grab underneath it?
Yeah, I end up.
Yeah, there we go.
There. All right, we going for the.
I think the back pivots around. Go your way. And then perfect. You can go forward a little bit too.
You want to move this or?
I don't know.
Good. Just gonna rest it up here.
Yeah. More, we might have to go more backward.
No, it's where it's lined up.
No, that's.
Because of the weight.
The way, yeah.
But that's all it's got though. All right, we need to get a
I'm
piece
off.
of tube to stick in there. Oh, that's freaking sick.
That is. That is really cool.
Wow. That is insane. It's like a freaking pro mod.
It's close.
Alright, hold up, we gotta come more forward on my side. We're about to fall off right here.
Put your foot on it. And yep, there you go.
Buffalo?
Money.
I mean, I think it can just hang and stuff like that, right? Oh, I
It's
don't
actually hanging.
Yeah. Can you put it on the second bar down?
It's captured in that hole. So,
Yeah, I'm saying to move it down so it's short.
I mean, it's probably a
go,
little short.
go, pick it up. Right, look at it. I feel like it's,
I can see it, Drew.
yeah, the root's fine though.
That'll be all right.
There is part of it. Like it doesn't need to be sitting on that.
It's not like wanting to flip forward either. Like, I think
It's not?
it's not wanting to flip
Okay.
Well, that's a lot heavier than I thought it was. It's not that much.
Everybody out?
Yeah, nobody touched
Nobody
it.
does.
Nobody breathes.
Stay.
We're not gonna pack that down.
Yeah, we'll pack that and then we'll bolt it up here like it was.
That's cool.
That's,
awesome.
okay, that's pretty cool.
Is that 25.3, Kevin, or?
25 here was another problem, it was catching this.
What is it?
My dash piece.
No, I mean the chassis.
25.3 and it'll serve
And
25.2.
Yeah.
And actually 25.1 if I'm reading the specs right.
Really? Depending on the weight?
Yep. Yep, obviously we got
Some welding to do.
You're gonna be welding for days.
It's gonna be,
Flying wheel element. On there.
yeah.
Make sure it's on the feet right, Drew.
Yeah, I want.
So, just curiosity sake. Oh gosh. Get on back.
You guys want to figure out?
Actually, lift it up. so I'm not so low. Let me lift you up.
I'm good there.
All right.
Ready?
Yep. 3.
Wow. That's sick.
That's sick. That thing's like what? Probably 600 pounds?
No,
Oh,
Not
no.
even 400.
Plus the scales up.
It's less than 400.
Actually, I guess let's wait till we
less than
put weld it all so it's.
All right, well, you guys saw, I left it real time right there because I thought you guys might like to see us, the real experience of pulling the body off this thing. We did have to cut the tabs off right here because that's the one mistake I made. They were in front of it, right?
Yeah.
So it was capturing the body and we couldn't lift it up just because of how things had moved and flexed. And so we'll redo the tabs on the body to be on the front side, and probably, you know how we can fix that is we'll just make these spacers a 1/4 inch thicker.
Oh yeah.
Because that's, well, no, it'll be a 1/2 inch thicker from going behind here to being in front of it, which actually works out okay. I think that'll be all good there. So anyways, check this thing out. It's what she looks like with the body off. Obviously we've got to come in and do lots of little welding, polishing it up, finish welding our tabs, finish welding these, finish welding out here, finish welding that, finish welding the little spots down there, weld around our brace for the floor closeouts there. Looks completely different outside of the car, or outside of the body. That is just cool. And I teased you guys earlier on the weird shape of this extra steering column bracket, right? So there's still some tabs that are going to go here that will give us the adjustability for the steering column. And part of the reason that it's done like this is just to make it easier to keep the dash in one piece, because we don't have to, like, the steering column goes under the dash. So there was no need to make the steering shaft or the steering column go through the dash and mess all that up. But this is going to be the wiring for the steering wheel buttons, and they will go down and come out right there, and then go over to where the ECU is over there. So, little tricks we're trying to do to keep this thing as clean as possible. Yeah, I don't know, it's just, you excited, Eddie?
Very. I did a good job on that, huh? That looks good.
Yeah, oh yeah, steering column looks awesome. Looks muy bueno.
Muy bueno.
Muy bueno.
Sí.
So this is the flange here where it bolts to the bottom of the firewall, bottom of the floor. This is where it bolts to the firewall. And then down the whole side, it bolts down there. So when this video first goes live, Eddie and I will be headed down the road in this rig. Think you can handle that big thing?
We're going to Wampum.
Wampum!
Wampum!
It's become our new favorite word. So if you see this rig going down the road tomorrow, I think we head up 95 up through Charlotte, and then other ways to get up to Pennsylvania. But that's where we will be tomorrow while this video first gets posted, or when this video first gets posted. And yeah, you see us, or if you're nearby to Wampum, Pennsylvania, and want to come watch some Trans Am racing, there's going to be some of that this weekend. So I think that's going to wrap it up for this video. Appreciate everybody watching, subscribing, following along. It's getting really exciting on this build, isn't it? So won't be long before we're off to powder coat, and then once we're back from powder coat, it's time for assembly. Again, thank you for watching, following along. See you guys next time.